The statement within the loop may be single line or block or statement. In the first case, the parentheses are optional. So basically statement within the loop can be a single line or block of statements. Now these are examples. While I is less than or equal to 10, I is equal to I plus 1. It's same as while I is less than is equal to less than or equal to 10, in bracket I is equal to I plus 1. That means parentheses are optional. So we can write parentheses, and we can, it is not compulsory to write parentheses. As a rule, the while must test a condition that will eventually become false. So while must test a condition that will eventually become false, otherwise the loop would be executed forever indefinitely. That means the while loop must test a condition that will become false, or otherwise it will be executed forever. So main int I is equal to 1. That means I is an integer, so which is equal to 1. Now while I is less than or equal to 10, printf d n. That means this will indefinite loop since I remains or equal to 1 forever. So that means we can write one number repeatedly. So I is a number which is 1, so it will be written 10 times on next line. So n is written for next line, that is in printf command %d slash n comma I. So I will be written 10 times. So this is an indefinite loop since I remains equal to 1 forever. So that is why it is indefinite loop. The correct form of would be as under: main int I is equal to 1 while I is less than or equal to 10, printf %d slash n I is equal to I plus 1. So here I will be incremented. I is getting incremented here. Instead of incrementing a loop counter, we can even decrement it and still manage to get body of loop executed repeatedly in shown below. So in this example we were incremented, that is I plus 1. So I will be written from 1 to 10, and we can decrement also. So this is program for decrementing. Now int I is equal to 5 while I is greater than or equal to 1, printf in next line make the computer literate I is equal to I minus 1. So this is program for decrementing. Just like incrementing, this is program for decrementing values. It is not necessary that loop counter must only be an int, it can even be float. So loop counter can also be float. Main, now float a is equal to 10.0 while a is less than or equal to 10.5, printf n raindrops on roses, printf and whiskers on kitten. A is equal to a plus 0.1. So it can be float also, it is not necessarily an integer always. Even floating point loop counters can be decremented. Once again, the increment and decrement can be of any value, not necessarily 1. So increment or decrement is not necessarily by 1. So in this program, main int I is equal to 1 because I is an integer, while I is less than or equal to 32767, printf %d slash n I is equal to I plus 1. So that means increment and decrement. So here we can write I is equal to I plus 2 also. So it is not necessarily I plus 1.